Hello! Welcome back to the Docentric Advanced Functional Training series. In this video tutorial, we will demonstrate how to automatically populate the SharePoint document library's additional columns, such as document ID and account number, when saving the reports to SharePoint. We refer to this functionality as saving to SharePoint with metadata fields. First thing we need to do is to configure the additional columns in the SharePoint document libraries. We see here one SharePoint folder, and in the library settings there are the configured columns. Title and description were the default columns, and I have added few more, such as invoice ID, invoice date, total amount, currency, due date. The settings related to saving to SharePoint with metadata are found under the Docentric Report Setup, SharePoint Settings form. Here we can add different configurations related to different SharePoint site and document library. You need to provide the SharePoint site, and the document library you can enter manually or through this picker. It makes sense to check if the configured document library exists and has the valid metadata fields. Docentric can save the files to SharePoint in these three situations. First, when we select the Docentric file print destination, Save to SharePoint. Then also when printing to Docentric file print destination, Save to Attachments, under the condition that the document type which uses the SharePoint storage type is selected. And finally, when Print to Archive is selected, and the document type for archiving uses the SharePoint storage type. In the Upload with Metadata Fields Fast tab, we enable one or more of these situations. I have enabled only the first one when using the Docentric file print destination with Save to SharePoint active. We can also select what to do if some metadata-related error happens. We can upload the file without metadata, or cancel printing. In the SharePoint Metadata Fields Fast tab, we specify the metadata fields we want to populate and define how to populate them. We first click the Select menu item, and a form opens, populated with all document libraries columns that were found on this SharePoint site and document library. We can multi-select the fields we want to automatically populate when the report documents are saved on SharePoint. I will select some of them and click the right arrow to move them to the selected group. When I'm glad with the selection, I will click the Confirm Selected button. Here we have a list of SharePoint fields that we want to populate. We will use the placeholders to specify the values to enter for the matching metadata fields. In the rightmost column, Placeholder, we keep selecting the placeholders we want. For the description, I will apply the parameter document title placeholder. We have been using it already in some of the previous videos. Then there are custom placeholders for the customer account ID. It is invoice account, for invoice date, and for invoice ID. This setup means SharePoint description field will be populated by the document title placeholder, customer account ID by the invoice account placeholder, and so on. Next thing we should do is to configure the Docentric file print destination to use this same SharePoint site and folder or some of its subfolders. When Docentric prints to this SharePoint site, it will find the matching SharePoint metadata setup and use the metadata fields mappings configured there. Let's print some invoices and see the result. These are the newly created documents, and we see the metadata fields that have also been populated. In this video, we learned how to perform the setting required to save the report documents to SharePoint together with the SharePoint metadata.